Right. Now the wash. So I mentioned before, let's be careful with our temperatures, keep them in a range. I didn't talk about whether fixer was chemical or physical, but it's chemical. It's the main thing is chemical. I didn't really anything useful other than, introducing reticulation if you're not careful with your temperatures that it's going to do. It's all chemical. But from here on out, my opinion, these actions are physical. Now, there might be something special about water chemically, right? That reacts just perfectly with the retained whatever that needs to be washed out of the hypo, that needs to be washed out of the film, the emulsion. But I don't think there's anything, well, the one thing is, there's nothing deleterious about overwashing. I've never heard anybody say you can overwash. Except, again, what I said before is, if your process is, like got 10 minutes of washing, you're probably done. At that point, you're done. Because maybe a half hour is actually going to damage something. It could happen, right? That emulsion might just float off into space, off the base. I don't know. I don't think you want to soften that ridiculously. So you can treat it like it's a physical problem. I have seen some really vigorous agitation. So if you've watched the movie about
I don't know, one of those street photographers, the gal in Chicago.
Pardon me for not remembering her name right now. But they showed, some of her old film being developed. She was gone. She had died and left a bunch of undeveloped film. They showed a lab, I think, in New York, well, maybe Chicago, right? Developing this film, and they were shaking it like crazy, like nothing could ever go wrong. And I'm suspecting that's during the washing phase, and the idea is it's a physical process. You're helping things. The agitation is, like helping push the hypo off the film. So treat it as a physical process, and you can't go wrong. I'm going to talk about agitation at the end. So there's some things about agitation we should cover, but we'll hit them in. So what I do first is a quick wash. Mainly, in my opinion, what we're going to do is get the easiest hypo out of there, and we're going to get all the loose, undiluted fixer out of there. So I fill the tank, do 5 inversions. What I call this a modified Ilford wash. Do 5 inversions, dump it, fill the tank, do 10 inversions, dump it, fill the tank, do 15 inversions, dump it, fill the tank, do 20 inversions, dump it. The full Ilford goes on for another 20. But I've got 2 more steps to do, so I skip those. I skip that one. Next, I use a Perma-Wash. So that's like Hypo-Clearing agent or Heico's Perma-Wash. Now we're talking a chemical reaction. It's probably a little physical that's going on here, but since it's chemical, I don't think you really help it that much by the vigor of your agitation. Agitation in fixer and developing, and whenever it's a chemical, the purpose of agitation is to keep getting fresh chemicals there. If you think about a piece of film in the developer, right? If the water is just still, everything's just still, there's a very thin layer of developer in contact with your film. If you have a lot of highlights, in this part right here, that were on my hand here, the developer, which sometimes is very dilute, right? I'm trying to extend my developing times, so I've used a more dilute developer. It's exhausting while it's sitting there. And your agitation is to mix that exhausted developer back in you're trying to uniformly exhaust the entire tank, right? So every 30 seconds, you're getting it all as dilute as it would be if it's perfectly shaken up, right? You're mixing it more than anything. That's what I think agitation is with these chemical processes. So at the perma-wash level, it's not a bad idea to agitate the entire minute with the perma-wash. I mean really gentle agitation, but keeping fresh chemical there. You know, I've varied my approach to perma-wash. Sometimes I've thought, well, look, it's kind of got to just sit there part of the time. You can't just have it scrambling around all the time. It won't really get a chance to do its job. So either gentle agitation the entire time, or, you know, your 4 inversions, let it sit for 10 seconds. 4 inversions, let it sit for 10 seconds. 4 inversions, let it sit for 10 seconds. So you're doing that maybe 3 or 4 times, you know, in the midst of the 60 seconds. Perma-wash is not one shot, but it degrades over time due to oxygen, especially once it's been diluted. So what I do is I always put the date on my perma-wash, and when that date plus 6 months is getting close, like in the last month or 2, I'll just start using it as one shot for the rest of its life until it's gone. And then I'll rinse that bottle out and mix up a new batch, change the date. Don't buy, I made this mistake, don't buy too much pre-wash mixed, you know, like liquid. I've got some Heico downstairs. I don't know how long I've had it. And then I learned that it, you know, that it's like developers, that it degrades over time, oxidation and all that. So I don't even know if it's really going to be all as useful as it would have been if I bought fresh. So try not to stock up too much on your Heico. If I'm not mistaken, the Kodak you mix, so you really don't have that problem. Mix it, use it for the 6 months, and at the last month, just be dumping it out until it's gone, and then mix new. So that's a perma-wash and the Hypo-Clearing agent. Then after that, I do a final wash. I'm going to insert here now across the whole screen a video that'll show the tools I use. I have 2 of these for roll film. I have 2 of these bubble making washing machines for film, and they're, you know, you gotta have a guy get them used. I don't think anybody makes much of this new, although I think I'll if I find the site, I'll put it in the notes. There is somebody out there who's made something kind of interesting. Yeah, no, there is somebody who made something pretty cool. I hope I can find that before. But I've got a couple of these already, so I don't need it. But if you don't have anything like that, look to the notes. And I do that for 3 minutes now, because it's a very vigorous wash. I mean, I used to do it for 10 minutes, but I think that was excessive. Once I had the process I've got now with the modified Ilford, plus the Heico, and now washing these little bubbly machines, I think 3 minutes is adequate at that point. And it's not proven me wrong yet. The only time I've ever known that I didn't get my fixer out well was very early in my printing years. There's a print in our bathroom here I made that it's starting to have some weird discoloration that I think it's because I didn't get the hypo out well enough. Prints, I think, are harder to wash. So that's understandable in a way.